welcome to Silverstone and a brand new series on Channel 4 for 2001. This is Motorsport on 4 and it replaces what was F3 on 4 and GT on 4 last year. Now we're going to be looking at both of those championships, and I'm also joined by two new faces, Michael Caine, not the Michael Caine, and Tim Harvey. So Tim Harvey, what are you doing down here amongst all these young Formula 3 boys?
Well, Amanda, I may be driving a GT car, but I'm always on the lookout for new talent. So you find me down here amongst these hopefuls on a grid of 37 cars, a record for British F3s. And perhaps the reason for that is the emergence of Jenson Button, Luciano Berti in Formula 1. With that in mind, these guys know they're perhaps one step away from Grand Prix stardom.
Now this is Michael Caine. Michael, you're better known as a TVR Tuscan driver, so what are you doing in the GTs?
Couple of years in Tuscans, obviously won the championship last year, and TVR invited me along to drive this wonderful car with Bobby Bournemouth as my teammate, so yeah, looking forward to a great championship.
And lots of great competition.
Yeah, some great competition. I mean, there's Viper, there's Marcos, there's Lister, there's Porsche. A lot of the Porsches are in GTO, so yeah, looking forward to a good season.
Well, we're going to be taking a look at the GTs a little bit later on, but first, as Tim Harvey's just mentioned, there are masses of new Formula 3 entries this year, and Martin Haven and our new expert commentator Ben Edwards have been gelling up on them.
Thanks, Amanda. Well, Ben, what do you make of this year's Formula 3 entry then?
It's very interesting, Martin, because a number of the front runners from last year have gone on to bigger and better things, including the champion Antonio Pizzonia, who's gone to 3,000 and has been testing a Formula 1 Benetton. Runner-up Thomas Scheckter is testing for Jaguar, and Lorraine Karthikeyan is racing in Japan. That leaves Takuma Sato, Gianmaria Bruni, Nicolas Kiesa and Andy Priaulx as the returning front runners.
Among the teams, Manor Motorsport, the champions, have three new drivers: Derek Hayes from Formula Parma Audi, American Jeffrey Jones from Formula Renault, and Mark Taylor, the Formula Ford man.
Stewart has turned into Jaguar. They're one of three F3 teams now linked to F1 outfits. Their drivers are the reigning Formula 4 champion James Courtney from Australia and the German André Lotterer.
Carlin Motorsport is tied in with BAR, as both team drivers are test drivers for the F1 outfit. Takuma Sato, pre-season favourite, won with Carlin last year, and he'll be joined by Anthony Davidson, who was third in Formula Ford.
RC Motorsport was linked with Benetton in 2000, but is now with Prost. They have re-signed the quick Dane Nicolas Kiesa, and he's joined by Ryan Dalziel, second in Formula Renault to Kimi Räikkönen.
Andy Priaulx's been quick in testing so far this year with his new team, Alan Docking Racing. His teammate is American Paul Edwards, another to come over from Formula Parma Audi.
Then there are something like 17 runners competing in the scholarship class this year. So far, the pre-season favourites are Michael Keohan from the Irish Republic and Matthew Gilmore from Belfast. But we'll take a closer look at the entry in the next programme.
Well, to find out a little bit more about a Formula 3 car, I've got Andy Priaulx with me here, who's going to give us a bit of a guided tour. Now, Andy, they look a lot like little Formula 1 cars, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what they are, miniature Formula 1 cars. You can see fully aerodynamic on the front of the car. Coming back to the front suspension, you've got a monoshock damper, again, fully adjustable with bump and rebound and everything else. All these things that you need in Formula 1, you need to understand. Coming back to the middle of the car, obviously the cockpit, this is where I do most of my work. Again, data logging, you see the Bosch system there, protective side for the head and side impact, and of course the rollover hoop. So, very important part of the car there.
Now, a lot of people will see this and not have a clue what it is.
Yeah, this just restricts the amount of air that goes into the engine. We've got a 2000cc Honda Mugen engine here, and what we want to do is regulate the amount of intake to supposedly keep the cost down, but all it means is that we do more work on the engine.
Now, the back of the car looks a little bit like spaghetti. What's all this?
Yeah, this is probably the most adjustable part of the car. Again, you've got rear aerodynamics, you've got bumps and rebounds, suspension and everything else, and roll bars, so fully adjustable. I think the most important thing about Formula 3 is you need to get the whole car right to be on pole position. It's the world's best drivers out there.
Well, to find out what the Silverstone circuit looks when you're out on the track, Michael Caine's going to give us a lap of the circuit in his TVR.
Okay, this is a flying lap with the TVR Works Speed 12, the Silverstone International Circuit. Just moving out onto the main straight now, just trying to get the power on as early as we possibly can. Moving up fourth, then fifth gear, possibly in the dry would even reach sixth gear here with top speed of 155 mile an hour. Coming down to the first corner, which is Copse, generally would be a dab on the brakes into fifth. Because the track is damp, we're into fourth gear. Be careful we don't touch any of the curbing, very damp at the moment, very, very slippy. As you can see, there's a Marcos in front of us, so we're trying to keep up with his pace. Just moving along up into fifth, again sixth gear, 155, 160 mile an hour, onto the brakes very early, purely because of obviously the damp condition. Again, be careful not to touch any of the curbing. Just coming down in one of the slowest parts of the circuit, 65-mile-an-hour corner. It's third gear, very, very important to get a good entry and good exit on that corner. Coming down here, Formula 3 car would be reaching around about 145 mile an hour, 140. We're about 160 mile an hour, but they would be a lot later on the brakes, so they'd be onto the brakes a lot later than us, which creates obviously a better lap time. Just coming down to the hairpin here, maybe second gear. Just got to be very careful on the exit. As you can see, there's a GTO Marcos in front of us. He moves over, lets us pass. Quick shake of the head from the car, and just to the right now comes past the GTO Porsche, which is on a qualifying lap. A lot less power, a lot easier to drive in the damp conditions. Just coming to bridge here, Formula 3 car, 2.5G, we're about 1.8G, so a lot quicker through that corner here, braking hard into the left-hand bend, keeping it in fourth, concentrating on just applying the power very smoothly, and then just braking, knocking it down into third, obviously still trying to keep everything as smooth as possible, trying to get the tyres up to temperature, and oh, there it shakes its head again, coming into Luffield, just making sure again we get good exit here, don't touch any of the curbing, and it takes us down again onto the pit straight, where hopefully we'll put a better lap in than we've just done now.
The track was in a similarly greasy state for qualifying for the first F3 race, but it seemed to suit Andy Priaulx. He was on pole for 28 minutes of the half-hour session, with his teammate at Allen Docking Racing, Paul Edwards, joining him on the front row late on. Pre-season favourite Takuma Sato left his charge late, but despite beating Priaulx, found himself third. Ahead at the last moment were novice James Courtney for Jaguar and veteran Jamie Spence, returning with the new Duma Racing team.
Jamie, a quick word with you. What an amazing result that was for your first time out in the British Formula 3. What happened?
Well, it's just, I'd like to say it's what we expected, but, you know, credit to the team. They've done an astonishing job this year.
Been going quite good in the wet through testing through the winter, so the result that not the result we're looking for pole position, but second isn't too bad.
Priaulx missed out to his teammate in the closing stages, but he felt that some drivers had ignored a yellow flag as the track dried.
Had pole for the whole session, but the last 5 minutes was yellow flag, so I couldn't set a faster time. But I'm quite amazed to see so many people go faster in the last 5 minutes of the session.
In the scholarship class, teammates Adam Blair and Matthew Gilmore contested pole despite this quick spin from Blair, but they were both beaten in the end by Robbie Kerr.
I was fairly happy for second, but I just screwed that last session up completely. I spun twice on both my sets of tyres, so I might have flat spotted them both for the race.
I think I would have been annoyed if I wasn't on pole, but it went well. We've only just swapped teams, and it seems to all be going well, so hopefully we'll have a few more.
The grid then for the championship class sees Jamie Spence on pole with James Courtney 4/10 of a second back, ahead of Takuma Sato, with the Allen Docking pair of Edwards and Priaulx next up, and Jeffrey Jones in 6th. In the scholarship class, Robbie Kerr's time was disallowed, so Adam Blair took over pole from Matthew Gilmore, with the Brazilian Hernani Judice and Mark Mayle on the next row.
So the first round of the 26 that make up this year's Green Flag British Formula 3 Championship start here. Jamie Spence in pole position after 6 years layoff in a Formula 3 car. Now right behind him is Takuma Sato, the Japanese rocket. He is championship favourite, of course, and I reckon going to give them both a real run for their money. And of course, not forgetting the scholarship class, we've got Adam Blair on the 11th row. It's over to Martin and Ben for what promises to be a superb opening round.
Thanks, Amanda. Well, Ben, how do you read this first grid for 2001?
It's a very full grid, Martin. There are 38 cars out there ready to go. Craig Murray's actually starting at the back, despite not setting a time in practice. It's the maximum number allowed to start at Silverstone.
Well, we should be up for a cracking season. Jamie Spence waiting for the green light. Oh, no! Pole position for the first time in 6 years, and he's blown the race already. Creeping before the start, he gets away with everybody else. No stallers so far. A safe start as we ride with Jeffrey Jones from Manor Motorsport down into the first corner. Looks as though Paul Edwards will go around the outside of the front row men to take the lead, and the whole field seems to be getting through Copse for the first time safely. On board with Takuma Sato. Right ahead, James Courtney in the Jaguar. He moves up to third, or does he? Tries to go around the outside of the Aussie, but Courtney has the line. Ireland bends for the first time then, and Paul Edwards leads his first Formula 3 race. Jamie Spence in second place, Courtney third. And look at this, a massive field streaming through Ireland bends. So far, no major incidents either. Takuma Sato in fourth, under pressure. The white car is Andy Priaulx, drove last year for Renault. Goes across Sato's nose, too deep though into Abbey. And Sato wheel to wheel as they come out. still there alongside as they head over the rise into bridge. Sato on the inside line, not the perfect line, but good enough to hold on to fourth. 3 ahead though, may start to escape now. James Courtney off in the gravel between Priory and Brooklands, runs too wide, too fast into Priory. Sato up to third, ahead of him just Jamie Spencer. Look at that, the leader Paul Edwards driving away from the field now. What an advantage he's got already. They haven't finished lap 1. Group of 4 cars chasing him, including James Courtney, who didn't lose too much time. We're right behind them. This is Jeffrey Jones, the man, a motorsport man. 7th place at the moment. Into Cox he goes, running out to the curbs and right over the curbs. Gianmaria Bruni was right up his exhaust, so he goes by him. Then looks as though he's got a problem. Lost 2 places there.
Yes, Anthony Davidson also going through. He ran very, very wide through Cox Corner. I don't look at the front of that car. It's missing a wing. That's why, Martin. It's missing that left front wing. That's why he couldn't get it through Cox Corner.
Well, he's lost another place there at the chicane. The second Jaguar is queuing up right behind, plus another 30 or so cars. Well, Ben, let's take a look at that again and see what happens.
We're on board with Jeffrey Jones. We've got Andy Priaulx just ahead, and Priaulx goes down the inside of Sato, but he goes a bit wide. Sato tries to cut back, takes the front wing of our car, Jeffrey Jones's, and that's why it's handling so badly now.
Well, Sato may be lucky to get away with that. The carbon fibre in these wings can be very sharp and could lacerate a tyre. He may pay for that later, but at the moment he's in 3rd place. Jamie Spence right ahead of him in 2nd spot. He's got the Jaguar behind, but Paul Edwards, the leader, unable, it seems, to eke out any more of an advantage than he had at the end of the 1st lap. Now, Sato, very well known last year for his ability to make passing manoeuvres and drive up through the field, looks to the inside at Spence, now dives to the inside as they go into Abbey, wheel to wheel, and Spence gets turned round. There is the problem with the slow hairpin at Abbey. Sato just gets through, but they both lost a few places, and Spence, I think, has lost the engine.
What a great shame that is, particularly for Takuma Sato, who looked to be set to make his move up on the leaders, but now, because of that incident with Jamie Spence, of course, he's restarted, but he's well down the field.
I'm sure that will make Takuma Sato a man to watch now as he's very fired up. Jamie Spence, well, what a shame returning to Formula 3 after 6 years away. His first race ends in the gravel, and pulling off there, that's Adam Blair in the scholarship class. He seems to be going once more, but not quite sure what his problem was there through the island bends. Jamie Spence out of the car, disappointed, but physically okay.
And we ride on board. Let's take a look at the replay of that incident. Takuma Sato coming down the inside of Jamie Spence. The door was left open initially, but then Jamie tried to shut that door into Abbey. It was a bit too late, and the contact was made. Sato kept it running, lost several places, but he is still in the race.
Well, Jamie Spence would have got a 10-second stop-and-go penalty for his jump start, so he would have been out of it effectively, but it's always a sad way to end a race. Edwards and Courtney then together, Priaulx leading the next little train. There is Anthony Davidson, and right behind him teammates Takuma Sato. No seeming ill effects from that. Well, Sato will need to calm down a little bit if he's going to make progress in this race, but out front, Paul Edwards still leading and under pressure now.
He is. James Courtney, the Australian, the reigning Formula 4 champion, really applying the pressure, and this is pretty impressive. Remember, Courtney's never driven in a race with slicks and wings before. He's coming to the outside here, so Edwards has to take a defensive line in. Now, what Courtney will hope is he gets a better exit, looking for better momentum on the exit of the corner. He's getting alongside Edwards. There's no doubt he's had good run off Abbey Corner, and now it looks as though he's got enough. He gets ahead of Edwards turning into bridge, flat out through there. He's gained the position. That's the lead of this race.
Absolutely copybook stuff from James Courtney, the sort of moves that he was pulling off in Formula Ford all the way through last season. And now Edwards looking very susceptible. He immediately drops off the pace. Ryan DL retiring his Prost Junior car. He was running in 12th, ex-Formula Renault man. The Jaguar leading, of course, and it's the Allen Docking Racing drivers, Paul Edwards second and Andy Priaulx third, who are showing strongest for their team at the moment. The Docks team led by American team manager Paul Anthony, watching progress from the pit wall. And Andy Priaulx, who drove for the Renault team last year, giving Paul Edwards some serious grief from behind, looking to make the same sort of move as we saw Courtney put in on Edwards the previous lap.
Andy Priaulx has the experience in Formula 3, of course, and he's trying to use that to the utmost here as he applies pressure to the American Paul Edwards. And Edwards has gone wide there, coming into the left-hander at Priory. Now, this could give a little bit of an opening to Andy Priaulx. Yes, he takes it as they come into Brooklands, slides down the inside. Good piece of late braking to go past his teammate. Paul Edwards drops one position.
Well, another copybook move, except perhaps for the wheel banging. I'm not sure that the team manager will be entirely happy with that, but more problems from behind. Paul Edwards has now got the #1 car of Derek Hayes breathing down his neck, and it looks as though Edwards is starting to lose his rag.
Well, look at this, coming down the inside into Cobb's corner, and Derek Hayes made the move, and looks as though he could almost have been cut off there by Paul Edwards, but Paul Edwards didn't decide to shut the door, and that puts him down one more. So Derek Hayes is flying. Paul Edwards seems to have just lost his rhythm a little bit, lost momentum. That first pass that Andy Priaulx put on him has just sort of, I think, upset him a little bit. Now he's got to get back into the rhythm.
Well, it's all important to try and keep your composure, especially in the early laps when everybody's desperate to make up places. And the same in the scholarship class. Matthew Gilmore leading there, Mark Taylor, the blue and white car, then Alex Gurney, the American son of the former Grand Prix and Sportscar ace Dan Gurney. He's in car number 7. Gilmore racing for Performance Racing Team, the same team as Adam Blair, the man who was actually quickest in practice. And there in the blue and yellow car number 8, Jimmy Bruni. Now he's Alex Gurney's teammate for Fortec. He's got Takuma Sato on his tail. Look out, Jimmy, he's seen this so many times last year. Sato really does know how to race wheel to wheel and to overtake. And he, oh my goodness me, gets past Bruni and then somehow loses it as he comes down into Beckett's.
Well, I wonder if he lost it there, Martin, or whether he had a little bit of help. I think we're going to have to take another look at that to see exactly what happened. Sato gets going once more, so he has rejoined the race, as he's done before in this one already. Now, the blue and yellow car is Bruni. The black and white car is Sato. Sato dives down the inside under braking. Good move. Oh, yes, and definitely gets a punch from behind from Bruni. And Sato, therefore, the loser on that little altercation.
Michael Keohan, the Irish driver, having his pitboard hung out by the Meritus team. He's in second place. 5 minutes to go in this timed race. 18.4, well, that was 1 minute 18.4, his last timed lap. That's the kind of information that they have to try and pick up at 140 miles an hour. Oh, my goodness me. Robbie Kerr maybe watching the pit board instead of keeping the car on the grey stuff, brakes on the grass, and the car immediately goes off. Started at the back, don't forget, he was up to 8th in the scholarship class, so he passed 9 cars on the way up from the back of the grid. Now then, I don't know how many Takuma Sato's passed, Ben, but he's got a lot more to pass. Now who's he chasing? This is Jeffrey Jones. Big look up there as the smoke comes off the tyres from the American driver.
Now remember, Martin, Jeffrey Jones is still driving with just one front wing. You can clearly see it on that car, and yet he's still holding Sato behind him at this point. I wonder how long that can last. Locking up a lot, that's because there's not much front downforce on the car. The front wheels are light under braking, and that means the tyres lock up easily. But Jeffrey Jones doing a fine job here of keeping Sato behind. Nothing untoward, he's not doing anything naughty. He's just putting his car in the place that Sato wants to be able to get past.
Well, Sato needs to get past Jones quickly and try and work his way up into the top 10. That's where the points lie at the moment. He won't get any at all. And that will be ill reward for the man most touted as championship favourite. On for a maximum score, though, for the first round will be the Aussie James Courtney, the young ex-Carter, ex-Formula Ford star, cruising serenely to a full haul here. And Ben, an impressive performance from a youngster in only his first Formula 3 race.
I think that's the point, Martin, and you get onto slicks and wings. It is different to drive these Formula 3 cars to the Formula Ford cars he was racing and winning in last year. Formula 3 is such a top level, it is so competitive. I have to say I'm very impressed with what we've seen from this young man.
Well, you have to be very precise in a Formula 3 car, and Courtney's done that, but he's also showed, like Formula 4, he's not afraid of racing wheel to wheel. And the result will be the checkered flag at the opening race of the 2001 British Formula 3 Championship. The Jaguar Racing team are delighted. Jaguar has never won a single-seater race in its history, and team manager Bruce Jenkins, well, no surprise, maybe just a little tear. Matthew Gilmore from Belfast will come home to win the scholarship class for the first time of asking in 2001. And behind him by 6 seconds, but in second place in the class, was the Irish driver Michael Keohan. So a convincing drive from James Courtney, fourth on the grid to victory by nearly 5 seconds ahead of Andy Priaulx and Derek Hayes, who also finished on the podium. Paul Edwards fourth from Bruni and Davis, and in the scholarship class, Matt Gilmore takes his first victory. Mark Mayle makes his first podium visit ahead of the rest of them.
Fantastic. Now, debut in Formula 3 and winning your first time out. How was it?
I don't know, is it real or am I still dreaming? It's been a really hard winter. We've been struggling quite a bit, but it's all come on good this weekend.
And are you happy?
Over the moon.
And are we going to see the same thing again in the second race?
That's the plan, but we'll see what happens.
Welcome back to Motorsport on 4 and the second race in the Green Flag British Formula 3 Championship. Qualifying was held in the dry, and Andy Priaulx was determined to make up for his problems in the morning. He held pole for half the session. But then Sato surged ahead until, in the last few minutes, he slipped to fourth. Derek Hayes from Manor Motorsports claimed third, 6 places better than in the morning, while the front row saw 2 graduates from last year, Jimmy Bruni second, and Matt Davis in the orange car on pole position.
I don't even know if I'm doing the full year yet, to be honest, so I did my first test day a week and a half ago. Went pretty well, so I got some money to go to the first race.
Jamie Spence couldn't duplicate his first pole position, languishing back in 18th place.
And right, it's perfect, turns in, but round left, the understeer is atrocious. You've got to have a look round.
Car problems there for Spence, but none for Formula 3 veterans Matt Davis and Jimmy Bruni. They're on the front row for this second of 26 rounds. Hayes and Sato next up. Race 1 winner Courtney is on row 3, with Kiesa of the Cross Junior team alongside him. And in the scholarship class, Gilmore starts ahead of Kerr. Kazuki Hoshino is in third place from Blair, Irishman Kyohan and Mail.
So 2 series returnees on the front row of the grid, Matt Davis, and alongside him, Jimmy Bruni. Now behind Bruni is Takuma Sato, and you remember what happened to them in the last race. Are we going to see much of the same? Well, Takuma's just had an engine change, so it's over to Martin and Ben for the race.
Thanks, Amanda, queuing up that battle. Matt Gilmore on pole in the scholarship class, well placed to repeat his progress in race 1. Takuma Sato will want to avoid it like the plague. No points, having finished 12th, and that's not a good way for a favourite to start. Conditions could hardly be better for the second race of the season, and as the lights go very quickly away from pole position is Matt Davis in the orange car, riding with Takuma Sato. Right ahead is Jimmy Bruni. Bruni dives over to his left-hand side, trying to take the wide line that Paul Edwards used to take the lead in race 1, and again, this enormous field looks to be making it through cleanly. Oh no, somebody's off. That's Justin Sherwood, just a little too much curb. Off onto the gravel he goes. The cop should survive it though, and it's Matt Davis that leads them through Island Bends for the first time. Jamie Spence in the green car in trouble. He was in the gravel there, and he will rejoin almost last.
Bad news for Jamie Spence that after the fun and games he enjoyed in that first race, both races have gone seriously wrong for him.
So at Abbey, Matt Davis leading Takuma Sato in contention. Now don't forget it was Abbey that was his downfall the first time last race. He's in 4th place. Now he's looking for 3rd. This is a great move down the inside into Priaulx. He almost loses his nose wing. Very aggressive racing from Sato, and here behind as well, the yellow car is the Dutchman Robert Doornbos. Down the inside has gone Robbie Kerr, around the outside, Craig Murray. Well, if you can't pass him on one side, this will waste the other, I suppose. Oh, and look at this further back. Jeffrey Jones, the blue and white car, going round Japanese Atsushi Katsumata.
Now we're on board with Jeffrey Jones as we're right behind Anthony Davidson, coming through the curve at Woodcote, flat out through here, no lifting. Oh, but Jones does lift because Davidson is trying to squeeze back out. Now Davidson cuts his inside, back out again. Davidson is all over the place. Now he's missed the apex. He's so busy defending that position that he's all over the place through Cop. He's very lucky not to lose the position there, and in fact he's lucky that the stewards might not be watching that closely.
Well, there they are, Jeffrey Jones right behind him, and Jones was also fighting it all the way through Cops. But look at this. This is Jimmy Bruni showing some aggression. Right on the tail of Matt Davis. Bruni in the number 8 car. Davis is the orange machine. Neither has won a Formula 3 race yet. Ben, where is Bruni going to be able to make a charge?
Well, he had a bit of an attempt there, didn't he, at Abbey, and locked up a front wheel. That's one of the classic places, and the next corner as well at Priaulx. They are under heavy braking. But, of course, in Formula 3, they brake for such a short distance. They have such great brakes, a lot of grip. You don't get a lot of time to outbrake someone else.
And as we saw in race 1, that can quite often lead to contact. And further back, the white car there, that's Paul Edwards. He has made contact with somebody. Damaged nose wing on his car. Right behind him with Jeffrey Jones, exiting Luffield.
Oh, and look at that. The lights going up on the dashboard. He was right on the rev limiter there. That poor engine suffering somewhat.
Suffering too is Jamie Spence, out of race 2, as he was in race 1. But somebody who's faring better is Michael Kyohan. This is lap 1, the scholarship class runner-up in race 1, chasing the man who won it last time, Matt Gilmore. Kyohan started 25th, passes Gilmore here for 18th. Right ahead of him is Rob Austin. Ferrari into Brooklands. Austin on the oil under that dirt, runs wide, picks up the place, thank you very much indeed, and is leading the scholarship class.
Absolutely spot on, Martin. Austin got right onto that oil covered by the cement dust, and that saw him go wide. Great chance for Michael Kiehan to take another position. And of course that was on the first lap, so the tyres weren't fully up to temperature. Pretty brave stuff, but this time it's gone wrong for him.
Well, Kiehan coming down into Abbey and suddenly turns sideways under braking, and it doesn't seem as though anyone else involved. When we saw that happen to Takuma Sato, he was lifted up from the back, but Kiehan going off on his own. Into the pits comes Paul Edwards to replace his damaged nose. The Locking Racing team will take about a minute to do that, which is quick enough, but not quick enough to keep him in contention. Nigel Clyde of Avanti watching his man Matt Davis reeling off the laps out front.
We're back on board with Jeffrey Jones. He's right behind Ryan DL as they come up towards Priaulx. He has that inside line, but no, its door is firmly shut in his face. And so Jones, this time he has a look at it. Oh, wow, that was from a long way back. He really wasn't ever going to make that, and he decided not to.
Amanda is in the pits with Paul Edwards.
Yeah, I came in for a new nose, but I think we bent the front left tracking, so I wasn't handling very well. So the leaders were coming up on me, so I just wanted to let him get on with it.
Matt Davis in traffic, the last lap. The orange car is the race leader. The blue and yellow car is Jimmy Bruni in second place. Back markers ahead of them. This could spell real danger, but they are being very gentlemanly and getting out of the way. Matt Davis now will drive out of the final corner with a chance of his first Formula 3 victory. Jimmy Bruni right behind, close but not close enough, as Davis and Team Avanti win for the first time in British Formula 3. Round 2 goes to Matt Davis. Jimmy Bruni very close indeed, both of them marking themselves as definite championship hopefuls. Matt Davis will be delighted with that, and so too are the team.
And another team that's delighted, Performance Racing, 2 wins in the scholarship class as Matthew Gilmore comes through to take the checkered flag. Behind Davis and Bruni, Derek Hayes takes another podium finish. Takuma Sato in 4th place ahead of Andy Priaulx, and a great one off for Martin O'Connell in 6th. In the scholarship class, a second win for Gilmore, joined on the podium by Mark Mail and Adam Blair.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't think I was going to get off the line very well because I remember last year all the Oval guys had problems from the start, but it went really, really well. The car was fantastic all the way. Had quite a bit of pressure, but won the race, that's all that counts.
The race was very good. I didn't I didn't get a very good start, but I made up for it after it, and I'm now here in victory lane.
After 2 races, Matt Davis holds a slender 2-point lead over Hayes, Courtney and Bruni, with Priaulx 1 behind on 23. And in the scholarship class, a perfect day for Matt Gilmore. 2 wins and 2 fastest laps. Mark Mail is in second.
So congratulations to twice race winner Matt Gilmore in the scholarship, and of course Matt Davis in the championship. Now it's time to take a look at the GTs. Martin and Ben have been looking at the entry list.
In the GT class, champion Callum Lockie returns to defend his title, but the favourites are probably the Lister pair, Dave Warnock and ex-GTO racer Mike Jordan. Tim Harvey pairs up with Rob Wilson in the Hales Racing Viper run by Hugh Chamberlain. And driving a Works TVR Speed 12, Bobby Verdon-Roe also has a new partner, Tuscan champion Michael Caine.
The main Porsche strength is in the GTO class, with as many as 12 cars possible later this season. Leading entries include 2000 champion Mark Sumpter, paired with Sean Bell, as Mike Jordan is now in the GT class. Terry Reimer and Adam Simmons at Harlow Racing, and the Porsche GB entry of Marino Franchitti and Kelvin Burt. Challenging the Stuttgart supremacy will be the second Hales Racing Viper of Curtis Hales and Ben Devlin. And 2 TVRs. Joining the Cerbera of Martin Short and Rob Bath is Dennis Leach's stunning new Tuscan R for Richard Stanton and Steve Hyde.
So what exactly is a GT car? Well, as a basic road car, it must have a roof, 2 doors and no more than 4 seats. And this Chrysler Viper, being American, has to start off with something fairly big under the bonnet. So it's got an 8-litre V10 engine that started life in a truck. It's up front and drives the rear wheels like a proper car. So how do you improve on that to get a race car? Inside the office, it's a little different. The creature comforts are all stripped out and they're replaced by this sturdy roll cage, racing seat and harness, and of course a fire extinguisher. The engine's uprated, of course, and we fit these massive slick tyres and brakes. And on the back of the car, you'll see a non-standard rear wing. This is my GT car with over 630 horsepower, or roughly 8 Fiestas, so it can get a bit hairy. But if that's too much for you, there's always the GTO car. This Viper is driven by team boss Curtis Hales, and with slightly less modifications allowed in the class, it produces only 530 horsepower. So it needs less aerodynamic downforce and is fitted with slightly smaller brakes and tyres. Nevertheless, it's still a very exciting car to drive. So how did we get on in qualifying? Over to Martin Haven.
Thank you, Tim. No change to the qualifying arrangements for the GTs. 2 sessions with each class getting a clear 10 minutes at the start of one of them. The GT class had first go in the damp morning session. Bobby Verden-Rowe ended up on provisional pole in the TVR, Euser's Marcus just behind him.
Rainmaster Terry Reimer could only manage second place in GTO. In the dry afternoon session, everyone went quicker, and Reimer stayed in second, behind Ben Devlin in the Hales Viper. The Franchitti Burt Porsche might have challenged them both, but Marino dumped the car in the gravel, stopping Newman Kelvin going for a quick time.
Very, very pleased to be back, and I think we're in with a good shot for the year.
And what about you?
For the season, just looking forward to it. I've got so much to learn. Every time I go in the car, I'm learning something new.
In the GTs, as the TVR barely improved, Mike Jordan got the Lister going well after a slow morning.
I wanted pole today, really did, but if it's front row, then we'll be happy with that.
All right, but David's happy with the car now, do you know?
I would imagine he will be, because the car's definitely, it's just a nicer car to race today. Yesterday it was very fast, but it was just a little bit nervous, whereas we've made it, I think, a bit friendlier today.
He was beaten by a flying Tim Harvey, which meant 2 poles for Hugh Chamberlain's Vipers, evidence of their careful testing and extensive preparation.
Well, it worked out just about all right. I got the dry conditions, we'd saved the tyres, and I almost got a clear lap. It wasn't perfect, but it was good enough to do the job. So I'm very pleased, obviously, for Hales Racing, and Ben's done a fantastic job. I want to put him on a management contract straight away. But no, great start to the year.
So in GT, 4 different makes of car in the first 2 rows. The Viper and the Lister ahead of the TVR and the champions Marcus. Behind them, the second Marcus is for Phil Hindley and Ian McKellar. The second TVR for Jonathan Rowland and for Ashley Ward in 6th.
In GTO, the Viper leads 3 Porsches, then the Cerbera with Sumpter's Porsche in 6th. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with the climax of the Power Tour weekend.
Welcome back to Motorsport on 4, and now for the finale of the Power Tour weekend. It's the Privilege Insurance British GT Championship. Lined up on the grid around me is 20,000 horsepower. Stand by for 60 minutes of battle, all peppered up with pit stops and driver changes. Now, it was a great weekend for the Hales Racing team. They have got pole position in GTO with Curtis Hales on row 4, but up at the front it's Rob Wilson. Over to Martin and Ben.
Well, problems for some drivers already. Both Mantaras have been trapped in the pit lane. The number 51 car of Gavin Pickering in the GTO Porsche also there. There's been a mix-up over the timing of when the pit lane should open.
Well, that leaves a gap on the 3rd row of the grid, but it's all black out front. Black Lister, black Viper, black TVR. We ride with Bobby Verden-Rowe in the Speed 12, the works car. Last year looked very fast but very fragile. The Viper and the Lister, much more tried and tested packages. Dave Warnock in the Lister Storm will do a taking it easy job in the first couple of laps as the pit lane opens and the 3 stragglers are left to rejoin at the back of the field. So, for the first time, Rob Wilson leads in the Viper, and Bobby Verden-Rowe fails to control the enormous horsepower of the TVR on cold tyres. Then the GTO class coming through in 6th position, 3 or 4 of them all together, but Ben, cold tyres are a real problem already.
Yes, Bobby just about managed to catch it, didn't he? He's in 2nd place, Rob Wilson just pulling away a little bit, and we've got quite a gaggle of cars all fighting their way into Abbey.
Well, the GTO champions car is in the middle there. That's Sean Balfe at the wheel of Mark Sumter's pale and dark blue car. He gets spun around by the Dutchman Jackie van der Ende. He's looking for a gap here. Whoops, here comes the second Marcus. Oh, this is going to be absolutely at the tail of the field before he restarts.
It's always so difficult, Martin, to get yourself going there. You want to get going straight away, but you've got to let those other cars come through.
Here's the other Chamberlain-run Viper, the black car in 2nd place in GTO, and he's been hit from behind by the Harlow Group Motorsport car. That's Marcus Fothergill. Well, he manages to make it across the track, leaves dirt everywhere. Curtis Hales also gets going in the black Viper, and that will put them well down the order, and the faster GT cars working their way through. Well, you can see there the rainbow colours of the Marcus Mantara LM600, and that is Callum Lockie, the champion, making up a place.
But up front, we've got a great battle going on. Look at this, we're on board with Bobby Verden-Rowe in 2nd place to Rob Wilson. Has a little look there, not really only opportunity to go past. And let's just watch Rob Wilson into GTs fresh this year, but he's had so much experience of other forms of motorsport.
And there is his teammate, Curtis Hales, the man who set up this team, retiring on lap 1.
Now, down into Abbey, and Rob Wilson a little slow there on the apex of the corner. You could see that Bobby Verdenroe seemed to have a slightly better exit. Wasn't quite room for him to try and overtake. Now they head down towards Bridge Corner. Very fast corner, hardly any braking at all, so there's not really an opportunity to overtake, but the next corner's a good one for overtaking. Rob just holds it tight enough. A little bit wide at the apex, though, and Bobby's going to be sensing an opportunity soon.
Verdenroe using all the curbs, and now he goes to the inside again. He's right inside Rob Wilson, but Wilson's car is just too wide. He can't get the run through. Out of Luffield, very hard to control all the power. 700 plus horsepower in the TVR, but now he's got a drag race on with the Viper. The Viper, though, is managing to hold its own. Ben, this is great wheel-to-wheel racing.
It is good racing indeed, but Rob's just been a little wide on some of these corners. I'm a bit surprised now. Bobby has a look down on the inside into Copse. Rob shuts the door on him fairly and squarely, no problem about that. And now they head up towards Beckett's corner. Might be a chance up here. It is more difficult, I have to say, in these big, heavy cars. You see Rob on the brakes for quite a long time, hops it over the curb, back on the brakes just a little bit more as it tightens down. Again, he's wide, very wide. And Rob just can't seem to place this car as accurately as I would expect. And here's Bobby's chance.
Yeah, Verdenroe alongside as they came through the island bend, and now the bumper cam shows us the TVR Cerbera Speed 12 leads for the first time, heading down towards Abbey. Let's see what the Viper's like on brakes. The TVR we know has got good anchors as well as a good engine. And Wilson in second place, just ahead of Dave Warnock. Look at the gear change indicator inside the steering wheel, second, third, fourth as he pulls back the lever to change up a gear in the sequential gearbox. Of course, you push forward to change down. Not all these cars, though, have that system. The TVR Cerbera Speed 6 uses a normal standard H-pattern gearbox, and he's just been passed by Callum Lockie. Lockie and the Speed 6 looking inside the second Speed 12. Callum Lockie there, Ben, putting his nose inside and almost paying the price.
Almost paying the price, but there was a little bit of caution, I'm glad to see. He's very fired up, having to start from the pit lane, and yet he was just cautious enough to make the move work when he wanted it to, and now he's gradually moving through the field.
Second place for the Viper, that's Rob Wilson. Third place, Dave Warnock in the Lister Storm, and Bobby Verdenroe in the TVR Speed 12 starting to ease away out front. And I think that Rob Wilson will be paying a little bit more attention to Dave Warnock perhaps at this stage than he is to Bobby Verdenroe. It's still a long race, and he has to defend rather than attack at the moment. On board with Sean Balfe, you'll remember, spun round on lap 1 by Jackie van der Ende. Now recovering, catching Gavin Pickering. That's the silver Certec Porsche, right ahead of the car that the champion will take over at midway. And Stephen Brady in the Marcos in trouble. That's the team run by Charlie Butler Henderson. And there is Jackie van der Ende, the orange Marcos, the Speed 6 and the Porsche all battling away. 44 car Marcus Fothergill also involved in an opening lap incident, trying to go around Van der Ende. And there's another slowing Marcus, that's Michael Mallock. No drive then for Shane Lynch of Boyzone, the Popular Beats combo.
Yeah, and that's going to disappoint some of his lady fans here at Silverstone. Right, battle for second. Rob Wilson trying to keep Dave Warnock off. Wilson up on the outside here, the number 32 car. Warnock alongside, but no, still not quite there. So he's got to look at another opportunity. They're coming towards Abbey corner now. Bit of a difficult approach, this one. It's very easy for Wilson to hold the middle of the road, as he's doing, and that doesn't give Dave Warnock any room down the inside to try and overtake. So he has to concentrate on a good exit, and Rob Wilson makes a little mistake. Perfect for Dave Warnock, this is. Now he has the opportunity. If he can really keep the momentum up through Bridge Corner, this right-hander, let's just watch, let's watch. Yes, now he's got down the inside as they come into Priaulx. Classic outbraking manoeuvre, which started 2 corners previously. Dave Warnock's up into second.
Well, it looked as though Rob Wilson was trying to close the door a little late as Warnock went through. Jackie van der Ende in the pits in the Marcus after that opening lap incident, looks to be overheating, and somebody else getting a bit overheated, Matt Turner, running just too wide at Copse. The Porsche driver loses a couple of places there. Oh, and trying to shake the gravel out before he needs the brakes. That's very good thinking indeed. Well, here are the cars that went past him. The GT class TVR being given a severe duffing up by the 2 Harlow Group GTO Porsches, led by Terry Reimer. And let's go down to Amanda in the pits.
So, Michael, how are you feeling?
Yeah, all right, really. It'd be quite nice if Bobby could do all the race, couldn't it, the way he's looking at the moment? Yeah, no, obviously very, very good. Tim will be going out in a minute, and we know he's sort of 2 or 3 seconds quicker at the moment than his teammates, so I would imagine they'll start making inroads into our lead. But yeah, it's all exciting stuff, isn't it?
Well, here is Tim's teammate Rob Wilson in the Black Viper, and this is Callum Lockie, started from the pit lane, and my goodness, Ben, that was a very strong move there to pick up third place.
Yes, indeed. Callum Lockie's still charging, isn't he? Look, he's gone a bit wide there, but it doesn't seem to have slowed him down too much. Checks his mirror. He knew he went in wide and wondered whether Rob would come back at him, but Rob really didn't have the pace to do that.
Well, Tim, it was all looking so promising in pole position, but you've dropped down a few places.
Rob's just saving fuel. It's not a problem. I'm sure that we can catch up and overtake the others.
You sure about that?
Not 100%, but I'll give it my best shot.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
I'm sure Tim's going to give it all he has once he gets out into the Viper. Let's watch another battle that's going on here as Terry Reimer in the number 45 GTO class car trying to get past Jonathan Rowland in the big TVR, and of course through the twisty section here the Porsche has the edge. It's the lighter car, and Terry Reimer has managed to just squeeze ahead of Jonathan Rowland. So good move that from Reimer, and now his teammate Marcus Fothergill trying to come through as well on the run down towards Copse Corner. Flat out here, there's only a little bit of braking required for the right-hander, and the TVR just stays ahead to Jonathan Rowland for the moment, fending off Marcus Fothergill. But for how much longer?
Well, that's Danny Wright in the middle of the track. Their brand new Porsche, still lacking in development, and clearly the driver's not quite au fait with its handling yet either. He continues, and as pit stop time approaches, everybody's starting to get a little on edge. There's Euser. He's waiting to take over from Callum Lockie. They're 16 seconds down on the leader, and this is the new Tuscan R, the brand new TVR of Richard Stanton and Steve Hyde, and they've got a sticking throttle, not the thing you need with all that horsepower under the bonnet. In then comes Callum Lockie, the reigning champion, and he's hauled bodily out of the car by the team. Euser will get in. Pit stops now starting. They should come thick and fast. Out gets Rob Wilson, in gets Tim Harvey. Always a squeeze to slip into these cars over the door bars and the other parts of the roll cage. Here's the lister. Dave Warnock will get out, and Mike Jordan will get in, and all the teams taking the orange labels off the door to show that the car's stopped, and also, of course, doing the belts up. They're so tight the drivers can't do them up themselves.
Marino Franchitti just doing a little bit of stretching before he takes over from Kelvin Burt in the GTO class Porsche. And into the pits, the TVR number 55. So out gets Rob Barth, and Martin Short now jumps in.
Terry Reimer losing it here, gets onto some oil and now into the gravel. Will he be able to get out? Franchitti's car leading in GTO, but Reimer driving himself back into contention, and he'll be furious with himself for that elementary mistake. Now, here is the white Speed 12 we were talking about a moment or two ago. Looks as though Jonathan Rowland's finally boiled up and out of the race.
Now Michael Caine is down in the pits waiting for Bobby Verdant Road to bring that lead car in. This is a very important changeover.
The leaders change, and Amanda is with the champion Callum Lockie.
Now you pulled up well. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm very pleased with that. It's just a shame it couldn't have been off the grid, you know, because then I think we could well have been in the lead.
Yes, I think they probably could as well. Trouble though for the TVR, the door won't shut. We saw one actually fall off a Porsche in last year's racing. That's a disaster, Ben.
Yes, it is, but it means that this man, Mike Jordan, has now taken over the lead in the GT class. He's up front as they still struggle with the door.
Well, an official there from the organisers making sure that it's safe before it's allowed out of the pits, but that has really cost them plenty of time. 30 seconds and more. Bobby Verdant won't be happy.
No, he won't, Martin, but look, up front we've got a GTO class car leading overall. The number 53 Porsche being driven by Kelvin Burt. He hasn't come into the pits to make his stop yet, but here he is being chased now by Mike Jordan, the leader of the GT class, and trying to take the overall lead once again.
Yeah, Jordan just out of the pits, so his tyres won't be quite at racing temperature. Burt going for a later stop. Just a little wiggle there. Now the door is opened. Mike Jordan goes through, and honestly, I don't think that Kelvin Burt would have defended there too much. Glory for leading a race, but none at all if you get tapped off by somebody trying to get through with a big heavy lister. Amanda is in the pits, and she's got Bobby Verdant Road.
How was it?
Hard work. Obviously disappointed with the pit stop. I don't think we're on for a top finish today, but it was interesting. It was fun leading. It was fun starting a race for the first time in quite a long time. But no, I enjoyed it.
In then comes the GTO leader. This is Kelvin Burt being hauled out. Marino Franchitti will be squeezed into the Porsche. It's entered by Porsche Cars Great Britain, run by Par Motorsport. And what a great opening stint they've had. Let's hope Marino can keep it out of the gravel.
Kelvin, pretty good going, but a very late pit stop. You're actually leading the race at this point, I think.
Yeah, it's short and sweet maybe, but not sure what the gap is to the next GT3, about 10, 12 seconds.
but no, it feels quite good. Circuit's very, very messy, slippery, but I'm pleased with that.
Well, here's the battle for second in GTO. Mark Sumter, we were just on board with him, lining up and passing Paul Fuller for second place in the class. Look, the team loving that one. Sixth place overall behind the best of the GT cars. Sumter leading, Michael Caine in the TVR right behind him.
Well, the GTO class has certainly seen some good drives this afternoon. We're just going back to take a look at when Kelvin Burt was leading a little while ago before switching over to Marino. Just look at the accuracy with which Kelvin is driving out there. Just touching the curves right out to the white line. Very, very smooth, very precise. And that's what really makes him a top-line driver. You know, it's some 14 years since I raced against Kelvin Burt in Formula First. And look at the placement here. It's a left-hand drive car, remember, and you couldn't get much closer to those plastic posts through Woodcote.
Superb stuff. I have to say my Mini is never that inch perfect. This is the battle for second place now, lap 34, so getting into the second stage of the race. Euser in the Marcus and Tim Harvey reining him in. Don't forget, Callum Lockie drove the Marcus #1 car all the way from the back of the grid right up into contention for the lead. But now he's got Harvey all over the back of the car. And as the Marcus gets the power down, look how much more road Tim Harvey's using, coming slingshotting out earlier on the power bend and lining him up for Cox.
Yeah, that was such a great example there of how to come out of the corner using full throttle. And now look, he makes it fairly simple. He's done the hard work at the previous corner and he just outbrakes and goes past Euser.
Clean driving by Euser as well, not weaving. Formula 3 stars take note. And here is Marino Franchitti. He's radioed in that he's got a vibration at the back of the car, and he may have picked up a puncture somewhere.
This is a great shame. This was the GTO class leading car, and now with this problem, of course, that puts him well out of it. And now look, we've got the two class leaders together. The Lister is leading overall, but that blue Porsche just behind him is now the new leader in GTO. That's Mark Sumter's car.
And don't forget, Mike Jordan and Mark Sumter raced together last year as teammates. Sumter under pressure, though, for that place. And the two Marcuses together, third and fourth place, Euser and Ian McKellar Jr., who shared the TVR Speed 12 with Bobby Verdon Rowe last year. It's been musical chairs over the winter, no doubt about it. So the Marcuses still looking fast, but not quite as fast as they seemed to be last year. I wonder if the pace of development has dropped off a little bit in the Mantara camp.
Ian McKellar keeps the pressure on Euser, though, doesn't he? I don't think he's quite close enough to have a go into Kopp's corner. Didn't pick up enough of a slipstream, but he's quick through the corner itself, and you can see him just gaining a little bit of ground through there. Again, I don't think he's quite got enough speed to dive down the inside into Beckett's.
Anxious moments for Dave Warnock and the Lister team. Warnock's lost races in the Lister Storm before now in late race situations like this, but they do know that their FIA GT car, Jamie Campbell-Walter, has already won in Monza early in the afternoon. Can Mike Jordan make it a double race-winning weekend for the Lister team? Well, he certainly hopes so, and so does Dave Warnock. Checkered flag comes, and not a moment too soon, I'm sure, as far as Warnock is concerned. Lost out narrowly in the final race in last year's championship and is desperate to make amends.
And the winner in the GTO class, Mark Sumter and Sean Balfe, in a car prepared by Mike Jordan. So a doubly successful afternoon for Mike Jordan.
Confirmation of that result then, with the Viper in second, the Marcuses third and fourth, ahead of the delayed TVR Speed 12. Well, a mixture of new and experienced names there. It's the same in GTO, but the cars are all Porsches.
I really pushed hard there because I could see Core catching me a little bit, and then Tim catching me, and every time I asked the guys anything, they just said, just shut up and drive, so that's what we did.
Fantastic, really good.
So this is the perfect way to start the season, obviously.
Yeah, both Mike and I on the podium again, but different classes.
So a great weekend at Silverstone comes to a close. Now, I was going to talk to Tim about the Formula 3 race, but Michael, you'll do because he's up there. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I think there's some shock results. Looks good for the championship for the rest of the year. It's certainly proved interesting.
And what about